Okay, let's start over.
How many items in our daily use are used without us knowing where they come from and what their history is? Let's take, for example, sugar, coffee, or even chocolate. These three items of food that are consumed from people daily, they all come from, have one thing in common, which is the exploitation of black people. And they have a very tragic history. And as them, most of other things that we use on a daily basis have the same history without us knowing. One of the most common used items of clothing in this era are jeans. In fact, 2 billion of pairs of jeans are sold every year. And without people knowing where they come from, what their history is, and the tragic story behind it. Jeans, for starters, are composed of two different fabric types. First of all, we have cotton, which is the main contribution to the fabric's origin. And second of all, we have indigo, which is the deep blue dye that's used to make the color blue. First of all, we start with indigo, which is, by the name, we can assume that it's originated in India. It was originated around 3000 and 5000 before Christ, and the name itself means Indian gold, which the gold in it doesn't just symbolize the name. It symbolizes that the fact that it was as valuable as monetary use in that era. In fact, it was almost as valuable as gold, and it was used for exchanges of items in that time period. And in India, it was a very common used dye for traditional and historical uses. And this traditional color migrated throughout the whole Europe and arrived in Africa, in where African people started using it for their own traditions, for their own costumes, their clothes, and even their makeup. And for us, this may seem such a beautiful tradition, but in the eyes of the US, this was another form of profit. In fact, indigo is one of the top 10 most profitable items in the 16th century, in the 18th century USA. Then we have cotton. Cotton was originated in the same era, in the same place in India, and has around the same history as indigo. And it migrated throughout the whole Europe again, and it became one of the most cheap but durable materials that could have been used for clothing items. Then jeans itself was originated in Genoa, Italy, and the name comes from the synonym of it, which is denim, comes from the French word denim, which means from Nimes, and it's an honor for Sergeant Denim, who created the fabric itself. Throughout history, these two items were migrated into the U.S. and they were used mainly from cowboys, miners, labor forces, even sailors, because of the cheap and durable material of it. And while slavery was taking place, it was one of the most common farmed items from the slaves, and it kind of became a symbol of Black Americans, a symbol of oppression, because there were first of all 4 million of enslaved people were producing these items every year, and because of the cheap material of it, most slaves were wearing jeans, and these clothes were renewed almost like once or twice a year. And because of the distinct color of it, it started becoming a kind of a symbol of showing a hierarchy between enslaved people and slave owners. Slave owners were wearing silk and wool, while enslaved people were wearing cheap and deteriorated clothes. Um, so, around this became a common symbol of oppression, which lasted for centuries until the civil rights movement, where black people started owning up for their own rights and standing up for themselves and started wearing clothes like suits and ties that made them look formal. So they started breaking these racial stereotypes that have been oppressing them for centuries. And political figures like Martin Luther King or Rosa Parks, they started wearing formal clothes to stop the stereotypes. And in the 1960s, the product of jeans stopped being used at all until the late 20th century, in the early 90s, where black people started regaining reclaiming this item of clothing that was jeans for themselves, so that it stopped becoming just a symbol of oppression, but it became more of a symbol of regaining their own rights. And most people that contributed in the rise of hip-hop, such as Tupac or Snoop Dogg, started popularizing jeans, and the black community re-owned the name and symbol of jeans. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed if it's not faced, is a quote from James Baldwin that reflects how black people turned something that was such a symbol of oppression into their own culture and reclaimed it with pride and not by force. Thank you.
Thank you very much.